And good afternoon, Minister. And once again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to comment on the in advance of the EU Council meeting next week in Brussels. I know it is the Taoiseach's last Council meeting, as Taoiseach at least, and just to wish him best of luck in that regard. I suppose from the get-go, I just want to, I guess, welcome some recent events, and President von der Leyen's address here to the joint Oireachtas sitting last week, I think was very, very good in terms of both content and delivery. And I very much like to welcome her absolute cast iron commitment that there should be no hard border on the island of Ireland. I think that's been the long-standing EU position, but it's very good that it's reinforced consistently, and it's great to have people of her stature in Ireland's corner in that regard. The second thing I'd like to welcome is the Western Balkan Summit in Tirana yesterday. I think it's a very positive step as well. I'm surprised more of these things haven't happened, because there are 6 quite fragmented and quite fragile countries in the EU neighbourhood in the Balkans, and all we have to do is look back at what happened in the mid-1990s to recognise that there is an issue there, and they could certainly do with the stability of the European Union and the influence of the European Union in that regard. So I would encourage the EU to at least get their house in order and ensure that we can get candidate status for these countries where appropriate as soon as possible. And then thirdly, just the ASEAN Summit, the EU ASEAN Summit next week as well. I think it's a good thing. There's 9 countries there in Asia that want to have a link with the European Union. I think a strategic partnership which takes into consideration both trade and human rights is a good way to go. Secondly, I want to focus on Ukraine. Obviously, what can you say about Ukraine that we haven't already said? Obviously, utterly condemn what's going on, particularly because of the fact that the Russian military are failing on the battlefield, that they're now targeting civilian infrastructure, particularly infrastructure from a real-life support point of view, water and power, which is obviously a ruthless way of doing business coming up to the Ukrainian winter. I'd like to welcome Ireland's support. The 25 million given just recently, and in particular the 5 million given to Moldova. I had the good opportunity to speak with the Deputy Ambassador of Moldova last night, and he asked me to convey his heartfelt gratitude to the Irish people, which of course I'm very, very happy to do. And it's good to see that Ireland is not forgetting or ignoring or neglecting similar small countries in Eastern Europe. I think that's a very, very positive development. In relation to defence and security, the Taoiseach did mention that there's looking at proposals to come up with a common EU mechanism for purchasing military equipment, and I do appreciate there's differing views in this House in that regard, but I think on balance it's a good thing, particularly for Ireland and small countries. We know that we have agreed as a country to look at getting a primary radar system in the country from a passive point of view, so we can monitor our own airspace. That's very, very expensive. It could cost between 50 and 80 million euro, depending on what model is chosen. We have a number of other big ticket items, like a new replacement ship for Oireachtas as well, which could cost up to about 200 million euro. On top of that, a possibility of a transport aircraft as well. So common procurement means we could probably get a 10 or 15% discount on the cost of those big ticket items, which are going to have to come anyway, so it makes perfect sense that we can spend that money in other regards. In relation to the Defence Force's participation in the mine clearance operation, I very much welcome that. They have excellent expertise from that regard, and it's very important that that expertise is put to good use. And the House may not be aware, but unfortunately there was a mine strike incident in Yemen this morning. Irish Army retired Major General Mick Berry. Thankfully he wasn't injured in it, but he was in the vehicle that actually drove over a mine, and his armoured Land Cruiser was almost completely destroyed. So very happy to hear that he wasn't injured and that nobody in the convoy was injured. And we do wish him a full and speedy recovery, but it just reminds us of the scourge of landmines, in particular contaminated areas. And I think anything Ireland can do from a Ukrainian perspective in relation to IEDs and landmines is something we should certainly be pursuing. So in summary, Minister, I welcome the agenda for the EU Council meeting next week, and I wish the Irish negotiating team best wishes. Thank you very much.